So for the past 5 projects or so, we've been doing projects that you can do at home during the winter, but they have been basic projects, a project that anybody with no previous skill in photography can pick up and run with. But now the stabilizing wheels are off. The basic tutorials are out the way. Now we're getting creative. In this project, we're going to be doing some toy photography. This is going to be fun. Before we get started, I'm not a professional toy photographer. I've only just started photographing toys last month. However, in this project, I can give you the basics, just enough to get you going down the path of toy photography that you can exploit yourself at home. And stay tuned to the end of the video where I will share some accounts that you can follow if you really want to master toy photography. For this project, we're going to try and get images like this of the alien and like this one. Those are complex setups, but we are going to try and replicate the head shot. But the others, they're more complicated. But as you can see from the behind the scenes, you can see how it's set up. And the issue I have there is it's hard for me to set up that type of scene and allow you to be able to see what's going on for a YouTube video. So that's for a different video, maybe later on in the year. But first of all, let's open up this one. And the particular one I have here is the Big Chap from Alien. This is the original Alien. So it's none of those weird stuff from Prometheus. Sign up in the comments below if you're into the new films. I prefer the originals. So we have Big Champ here. Go. Now this is a toy from NECA, and sometimes when you get the box, sometimes you've got like background images, like here. Let me just get this out. But sometimes you get backgrounds with your actual toy to display with. These can come in handy for your toy photography, so keep a hold of those, keep them close by in case you need it. Now the reason I bought this particular one was for the egg. There's a project I want to do with the egg. This will most likely be an added video later on in the week, so look out for that video that will come along. But we want Big Champ. Nice. Now NECA figures, they're not the best in high quality. There are some that you can spend hundreds of pounds on. But these are great to get you started in toy photography. So the rest of this we won't need, I don't think, because again we're keeping things simple. So when you look at some of the high quality toy photographers like Jesse Fireheisen, they build dioramas, entire sets for this type of thing. I've dabbled a little bit in sets. It is hard, and that's not something I want to cover on a beginner tutorial for toy photography. So what we're going to do is eliminate the need for complex sets by photographing from the waist upwards whenever possible. Now if you want to feel more brave, you can do a wider shot, but the wider shot you get, the more set building you've got to build to make it look like it's in that world. We're also going to be trying to attempt to get cinematic looks, so we will be doing a widescreen feel for these looks. And as I said, I think we're going to concentrate to begin with on the head. So we're going to go for a headshot. If you go for a headshot, it eliminates the need for posing the body, trying to find some sort of scenery that can go into. But to start with, we are going to just do a headshot. So let's bring the camera in. The first thing I want to test is the field of view of the setup. I'm currently using the OM Systems OM-1 II with their 90mm macro. So for full frame, that would be equivalent of a 180mm focal length. That might be too much for this particular toy. So let's take a look first and see if we need to change lenses. So I can see the camera there. So yeah, so to get that in shot, I'm quite far away. I want it in the middle so you can see. So I can either pull the camera back, which I most likely will do. I won't be using the 60mm because the 60mm is attached to my OM-1 II. The sensor is absolutely spotless in that camera, so that lens will never come off that camera. That way I don't have to clean the sensor. So we'll pull it back a little bit. Have a look. So yeah, maybe something like that. Unfortunately, you're not going to see the camera, but you can see the EVF, so you can see all the settings that we're going to use. Right, so I'm going to repeat myself again. The key to this success of this type of photography is lighting. So we will be using the LED lights from our previous projects. What I want is head down, Let's see if we can lean the body a little bit more. So we want the head down so that it's kind of looking down, and we're going to be using the smoke machine, and the smoke's going to be rising up. So we want a side-on view of the head. So what I want to do is find out where my camera is pointing. There we go. Again, as with some of these other projects, we have an issue with the exposure. You can see the exposure is correct according to the camera, but it is overexposed on his head. So we have to expose for the model. Now the problem I got here is the video light. If you're doing this at home, you haven't got video lights, so you can turn them all off. So we're going to have to work with the video light, I think, or I could just turn it off whenever I take the picture. F-stops again. You want an f-stop that's going to give you good detail, but you want that cinematic look, so you want it to be out of focus in the foreground and in the background. Again, to make things really easy for yourself, just start with photographing the upper body or the head. We are photographing just the head. I'm maximizing my framing. I'm getting the most amount of megapixels possible, because for the size, when we crop it into a widescreen field, we're going to use Photoshop to fill in those pixels. And I'm thinking I'm a bit too close. I'm going to back it off just slightly. And what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the top of his dome of his head there, and his mouth. And the focus will be on the teeth. So if we go in, we're going to punch in. And if you see anything in this video that you don't understand, like me punching in now, go back and see some of the other projects to catch up, okay? So we're going to hit critical focus on his teeth, like that. Now again, you need to ignore the exposure meter, because it's seeing the whole background, which is black. And to show you an example of this and to understand it, when you're looking at your preview viewfinder or the back of your camera, and you've got a situation like this, put your hand into shot and watch the exposure change. Can you see there? Okay. And you can change this by using your metering settings. So if you go from evaluate to spot meter, you can do all that. I know the system well enough that I know that's going to work. Okay, I can see it on my monitor. It looks okay. Let's take a picture. We should be still on a 2-second timer from the last time we did a project. And we're going to take a picture of that. Again, I might have to turn off the lights as I do it. Let me just turn it off now. You're not going to see me. There we go. So you can see there, the light from the one video light, which is up here, this is filling in my face here, looks great on there. It's the main light. So what I will do is I will turn the lights off as I take the pictures. We've got a rough feeling of what we want to do here. So what I want to do is let's address our ISO, because I've been playing with the ISO, and we want to drop it right down to 200, which is the native ISO of this camera. If you're on a full frame camera, your native ISO will be roughly 100. We can then drop our shutter speed, and we will be going for a slow shutter speed because we're going to be using some smoke effects. So I'm going to go roughly there. Your settings are going to be different, of course. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the light on while I take a picture, because I want to show you the difference here. So if you've got something in the background, let's say there's a hand or there's a monitor. Let's use the platypod stuff. So if you're not wary of your background, you're going to get something like this. And that is, obviously, it's going to be a toy. So what you want to do is get a background that works for you. You can use a background card. You can use your monitor as a background. For this shot, we're simply just going to be using the black background, and it's the natural effect of it being in an office doing YouTube. It's just black. So be mindful of the background. From then, we want to get creative with lighting. So I have a Lume Cube. This is the Panel Pro 2, and I have 2 of these panels here. Okay, these are the magic tubes from Soonwell. And what I'm going to do is set up the Lume Cube on a platypod. And I'm going to say it again. Lighting is key. If you can nail the lighting, you're going to make it look really, really nice. Now, one tip I can give you if you're a really big fan of the franchise that you're filming. So for instance, this image here, this is of the dog alien from Alien 3. So what I did is I got a copy of Alien 3 and I screen captured some of the scenes and then picked the color of the lighting on the alien and then I change the color of the lightings to match that lighting. That can take quite some time to do, but it's great for authenticity. Now for Alien, if I remember right, there's a lot of greens. There's not so much warm colors in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Lume Cube as the main color light. Put this somewhere where you can't see it, okay? I'm going to use this as my main colored light again. We have the background light again. We like the background light the way it is. So I'm going to change my settings. And I know you can't see this, but it needs to be subtle. So we're going to go with 25% power. And I'm going to set my color to a 165 on the color. So it's like, no, actually, let me go a bit more. Let's get a bit greener. There we go. 145, so it's kind of a green color. Can you see there? Okay. Right, now, watch the EVF. Okay. So if I place that there, it looks awful. Can you see that? As I start coming round, though, we start getting something that we like. Let me turn off the main light. Again, this is straight onto the toy. Looks a bit awful. Okay, so what we're doing is we're playing around with the light in this scene, and it's too bright. And I know you're stuck looking at the EVF because this is the view you get if you look at me. I'm going to turn it right down. Let's go to 10%. And again, check for your EVF and see what we got. And I want highlights, just highlights. Okay. So for me, I'm thinking something like that. So from there, we're getting the video light that's shining through his skull. So we see the details of the top of his skull. And then we're getting some bluey green highlights on the back of it. Let's take a picture of that, shall we? The camera is not going to tell you the correct exposure. So all I'm going to do is just ballpark it. Okay. Listen, I've done it before. I want about a 1 second. Okay. I want about a 1 second exposure. Okay. So we're getting somewhere now. Let's turn on the video light so you can see me. So what we want to do is think about the ship from Alien, okay, the Nostromo. We could possibly play with a red light. So if we have a red light, and if we put it to maybe 1%, again, it's very subtle, okay? We could have something over here. So that's actually on my other desk. Turn that on. Turn this light off again, and I'm going to take another picture of that. So you can see there what we're getting now. And again, that is still too much, but that's as low as it'll go. What we can do is just turn it so we're getting just the edge. And then we want our main light. Now this light is going to be used to fill in the shadows on the side of his head. So we want very, very subtle. You see, just look at that now. Yeah, you see? Doesn't look good. Again, I'll probably go to 1% on this light as well. Because again, we are using a long shutter. Don't know, actually. Let's take a picture of that and see what it's like. Right, so you can see there how we've not got the defined face. It's getting lost, if you know what I mean. Those are on 1%, so they're going to last for hours on 1%, so I'll leave them on, okay? So again, lighting is the key to this. I'm going to take a picture of that with the video light on and just show you the difference. And all we're doing is changing the lighting around. Can you see there? That looks like a tie. The other one looks more cinematic. So what we want to do now is we want to bring in some smoke effects. This is where it gets real fun. So, but before we dive into the next part, I just want to say a massive thank you to my Patreon supporters. Your generosity makes making these type of videos possible, and I truly appreciate each and every one of you. If you'd like to join the community and get access to exclusive content, behind the scenes updates and more, check out my Patreon. The link is in the description below. And I'll bring out my smoke machine. This is supplied by Telesin. I did a review for this in December. Okay, and for this one, let me think. Let's just go with a basic setup. Now, if you don't have a smoke machine like this, you can use smoke from a vape or Another one that you can use that's quite interesting would be a incense stick. Now for these shots I have got to turn off my main light, so I will apologise for the bad lighting on the video, but you're mostly going to be seeing the EVF, okay? And what I want to do is I want to put the smoke under his chin and have it come up. You need a lot more than that. And this is where you start experimenting with your lighting, moving it around. Okay. You can see there that it's hit and miss. You need to keep taking lots of pictures, okay? The slower your shutter speed you can get, the better. What I want to do is I want an instant response from the camera, so we need to turn off the 2-second timer. I'm going to go to single silent. So for this part, I've come back, I've turned on the lights for this, because what I want to do is we're at 1/2 a second. I want about 2 seconds, so that smoke gets nice and dreamy and creamy looking in the image. To do that, I don't want to adjust any of my settings. I don't want to decrease my shutter speed. So if I go down to 2 seconds, you can see there how even with the video light turned off, we're going to be overexposing the image slightly, and it's going to look like a toy. Let me just show you that. But can you see how I've got the cloth in the background? That's not good. So I'm going to bring it back up. I brought it back up to 1/2 of a second. And what this camera features, which is very nice for doing this type of photography, is built-in ND filters. And don't panic. If you don't have a built-in ND filter, you can buy ND filters that you put on the front of your camera. But this camera has them built in. So I'm going to come back to my menu. And we're going to do live ND shooting. We're going to turn that on. And the number, I'll leave it on 4 and we'll see what that's like. And what happens is it tells you what your shutter speed is going to be. So if you look down the bottom here, you can see the number 2. That means it's a 2-second exposure. That's giving us the exposure that we want. So again, I'm going to turn off this light. I'll turn on my green light and we'll take a picture. There we go. So again, we're starting to get there. If you notice the top of his head, you got like a line where the toy parts come together. You'd remove that in Photoshop. What I want to do is have it so that his mouth is a little bit more defined. So what we could do there is maybe turn that off, thank you, is maybe bring the light round so it's more like that. Okay, I'm going to turn down, let's turn it down to, what do you think, 2%. So what I'm doing, I'm looking at his chin. Right, let's take another picture. So you see his chin getting more defined, and obviously we don't want to have the light in the frame. So I'm going to turn it up a bit more. Now if you are watching the EVF, you'll notice it's like kind of a delay. When we put the live ND filters on, if I bring up the menu, we have a LV simulation. So it's actually simulating what it's going to look like in the live view. I still think we might want a little bit more lighting in here maybe. So another thing we can do is just wave the light at it when it's doing the exposure. See if that's enough to get what we want. There we go. That's more like it. Okay, so what we are going to do is smoke machine, wave the light. Okay, so let's put the smoke machine underneath our figure. Get lots of smoke out. Okay. Take a picture, wave the light. You can see there, that one didn't work out, okay? Okay, we're starting to get somewhere, aren't we? Want a bit more red, I think. We're going to have a bit more red. You see how it's highlighting on his teeth now? I'm going to take out the remote from this. And I'm going to place it between his legs. So I have a remote in this hand. I got my light in the other hand. And I'm going to turn on my 2-second timer again. Because now, this is where I want to have that freedom of being able to wait a little bit. We're going to go smoke. And it's coming out too far. Let's move him back a bit. Smoke again. So what we have there is we've got some interesting images where the smoke is interacting with our figure. As you practice and as you learn, you want to start incorporating other things, other elements into it. Now, we're not going to build a diorama. Might do later on in the year, okay? Again, have a look at Jesse Fireheisen's work for that type of stuff. But what we can do is something simple. So this, if anyone is a long-time subscriber, you'll recognize this as the background I used to use on my B-roll. But we can use this in our image. Let's do it from this side, shall we? There we go. Okay. And what I can do here is I can place my light against this grid. We can have our alien. You can see the grid in the background. We'll keep the alien where he is, and we will move our light to see where it is. Where is it coming through? And for this, we are going to need to brighten it up, I think. So let's brighten that light up a little bit. And then we'll just do the same again. Give me that light here. Gonna need a lot of smoke. Bring it in the back here as well. Probably too much smoke on that particular occasion. Yeah. So I'm going to take another picture. What I can see there is our background is too in focus. Now, the distance, I would actually want it to get closer. Something like that. So to fix that, we're going to reduce our f-stop to about f4. Now we've messed with that, I want to zoom in just to double check our focusing. We are slightly out there. Okay. What I want to do though is actually, come to think of it, I want this to be going away from our focus plane. So it's like maybe towards the side. Like that. You see there? And you know what? Screw the Nostromo, we're going to change the colour. I'm going to put it as an orange colour. Kind of like you would have in Alien 3. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now before we do anything, I'm just going to take a normal picture without the smoke to see what we're like. Okay, we're getting something. I'm going to lie this down, and again, all I'm doing, I'm just looking at my preview. Okay. All right, let's get the smoke machine on the go. All I'm doing is I'm pressing my shutter button repeatedly, because when you're dealing with a smoke machine, you're never going to get the same shot again. It's always going to be different. And all you got to do from there on is just play with your setup. So for instance, for this one, we could try turning the alien around and have his head face the light. So I'm not going to move the camera. I'm just going to move the alien. Focus. Again, always check your focus all the time. Okay, let's turn the light off and have a look. Okay, let's take a picture of that. And half the time it is about timing. Sometimes you'll just hit an image that is just really good looking. I'm going to place the light directly onto our grid. Like that. And I could spend all afternoon just doing this. The images that you saw earlier, some of them took quite some time to do. And that was just getting the light right, getting the smoke right. I think we're a little bit too bright. I'm going to adjust my shutter speed a little bit. Bring it down to, let's say, 1 second. We'll try it again. And of course, do have adequate ventilation. So some tips when using a smoke machine is be careful where you do put it, because the liquid can sometimes come out and it's a little bit sticky. So I wouldn't advise you to use the smoke machine on camera equipment and stuff like that. But for this type of work, it's great. So from there, we can now go on and build a scene. And these are called dioramas in the industry. I'm going to leave that for a future video, so do please subscribe if you're looking forward to more toy photography. But that is the basics of toy photography. The photography side is just 50% of it. What you need to do now is to take this into Lightroom. We're going to apply a preset from one of my macro presets, and then we're going to extend the scene and put it into a widescreen scene using the Photoshop's generative AI to fill in the gaps. We can also use the Photoshop's AI generative fill to add some slime to his mouth, and we can get a result like this. Absolutely fabulous. I'm really loving the toy photography, so you are going to be seeing a lot more from this. So if you want to have some more information, or you want to get inspired with toy photography, then what you want to do is head over to Instagram. And the first account I want you to take a look at is my good friend Jesse Fireheisen. He does some fantastic stuff. He builds the dioramas and everything. Go take a look at his work. And the second account I'd like to take a look at is A Galaxy Far, Far Away. This is someone I met last year. She does some toy photography, some fantastic work. So go do check those out on Instagram. Some fabulous work, and they can give you some ideas for you to start doing your toy photography. But that's where I'm going to leave this video. Drop the video a like, give it a comment if you've enjoyed it, and of course, as always, I'll see you on next week's project.